Hi, this is Bruce Rawls, and I'm talking again with Susan Dugan about A Course in Miracles. And today we're going to talk about a couple of places in the workbook that were skillfully chosen by Susan, I would say. And we're just commenting that they both apply to everyone all the time, as it all does. The two topics we wanted to talk about today were Lesson 134, which is Let Me Perceive Forgiveness as It Is, and the section which prefaces the rest of part 2 in the workbook, which is after the introduction, which is What is Forgiveness, which is a really outstanding summary of forgiveness. So plenty to work with here. Do you want to start in, Susan?
Yeah, I think we could probably spend all our time on lesson 134 and just
Oh,
kind of,
sure.
because it is, yeah, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. And as you said, and we were talking earlier, it's a wonderful lesson because it really clarifies for us how the Course's forgiveness is so different from what we think of as forgiveness in the world, which really isn't forgiveness at all. Really is a sort of not so subtle way of reinforcing guilt,
Right.
but keeping it hidden in the other person so that I never look at it within myself. And I was thinking about with this lesson as I was reading it, also that Ken always said that the Course is you can't understand A Course in Miracles if you insist on reading it as a body. And of course we have to read it as bodies because that's our experience, but at the same time, we have to constantly remind ourselves that I am not the you that Jesus is addressing.
Right.
And so it's this, there's kind of a dual process that goes on as students of the Course, wherein we don't deny our experience in the world, but we begin to really question it constantly. That's the that's the being in school, and we're reminding ourselves, even though really we don't believe it until the very end fully, that we're not bodies, but we're one mind, and that's what we need to at least question our investment and tremendous grip clutch that we have on this identity, death grip that we have on this identity, before we can open at least to the possibility, entertain the possibility that we are more than these physical selves that are in constant conflict with each other. And so a lesson like this, really sums up the whole process of how do we do that? How do we live that in the classroom of our lives? And he tells us very specifically in this lesson how we do that. And he also gives it, he leads us through an explanation of forgiveness, again, by telling us, beginning with what it is not. Mm-hmm. And it's not what we think it is. It's not what we experience here. It's not about what you did to me. It's not about the, on any level. I mean, in my personal seeming life or my greater collective life, wherein there are, larger seeming atrocities going on. Mm-hmm. And so it's really this, he says, let us review the meaning of forgive, for it is apt to be distorted and perceived as something that entails an unfair sacrifice of righteous wrath, a gift unjustified and undeserved, and a complete denial of the truth. And of course, to bodies, to say that nothing is really going on here is impossible to really believe without actively choosing to connect with a part of our mind that knows that's the truth.
Right.
And that's and our resistance to that is so enormous that even as we read something like this as students, and those of us who've been students for a while, it's what really the process of the workbook is to look at how does that make you feel when you're told over and over that nothing's going on here, that there's nothing to forgive, that there is no, because we're so, our body's sensory information is constantly feeding us proof that everything is real, right? And so there's this constant distraction that seems to be going on that screams otherwise. And so, we're being asked to deny the denial of truth, the Course says. So to deny, not to deny what we're feeling, we have to connect first with what we're feeling. And we can't skip that step. And I think so many students try to skip it and just say, go to the metaphysics. Well, it's all an illusion. So, and then it just gets driven down, and they're still acting out all of the hate that comes from, and specialness that comes from this secret sin of guilt over believing we separated from God. So in practice, we have to walk this. It's kind of like suspending our disbelief constantly because we don't believe it, and it's really important for us to not only admit that we don't believe it, but to really see how resistant and how much we don't want to believe it. I really, really, whether it's something trivial or something, again, that seems like a larger personal or collective atrocity, I have, to me, it seems in the moment, my investment in being right, in being the victim it seems almost impossible to question, and yet that's what we're being asked to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so easy, like you mentioned, to just believe ego's party line of, oh, this is the real deal. I mean, we're 24/7, 365 given an incredibly photorealistic, high resolution 3D animation of our mind's contents. But we forget that that's the part of our mind that we split off and took to be our identity, and we're now so thoroughly identified with it. We believe that's the real deal. So that's the disbelief, like you said, that we need to suspend.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Ken always said, part of the whole point of the workbook really is to show us what we do believe.
Right.
Reveal what we do believe, because we don't even know. We're not aware that we just think it's reality. And so we have to see that we are, not only do we believe that this is all we are, but we defend it with every ounce of our energy. And so, this is a process of becoming mindful of how defended we are, how frightened we are. And we can't get to that defenselessness, the innocence that the Course promises us is the truth, until we first see the guilt that we feel. And of course, we generally see it most often in someone else, because we the whole plan, ego's plan for salvation, was to project it outward, and then to project a whole world of fragmented forms of the thought of guilt and separation, and then take the next step of assuming bodies with which to wage war with other bodies and prove that we're the innocent victims. So to try to relieve that enormous guilt that we feel. And everybody here, that's very helpful to remember. And I think we all forget that everybody here has the same decision-making mind, the same ego, and the same right mind, and is fighting the same hard battle to prove that they're the victim through their own private seeming dream. So someone else's viewpoint of an interaction is always going to be they will be the hero of that dream from their perspective, and it looks very different from our. We think that that's the first law of chaos. The truth is different for that there's a hierarchy of illusions.
I'm the hero in my dream. Everyone else, on some level or another, is the villain.
Right.
And everyone is doing that exact same game.
Right.
Not in my mind's backyard. Get it out, get it away, get it away.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're all having our own secret dreams of persecution. And so.
And some of them, sometimes they're not so secret.
No, they're pretty transparent. A lot. We think they're secret, right? But we think that what's going in our mind is not palpable outside ourselves. But that, of course, is laughable. But it is helpful when you're in the throes of something to remember that this person is as frightened as I am. That they're doing the same thing, And that's where we begin to, through this practice and through this process of making our lives a classroom, and making learning true forgiveness, which is really our only function and the only worthy prayer. The Song of Prayer pamphlet says, if it's all about purpose, if we change our purpose from rooting ourselves more deeply in the dream to at least opening, accepting. We can't accept, but we can open. We can ask to suspend our disbelief. We can question our reality.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong.
What if all of my assumptions aren't exactly
right
accurate? What a concept.
Yeah. I have to question all of them. We do them one at a time. Whatever's up for us is the only lesson that we have at the moment. And he does a really good job in this lesson of really also showing us how we walk that line of we need to, as long as we believe we are bodies, we need to make it very specific to our lives. That's the process of forgiveness. So it isn't that we are truly forgiving another person because there's no one out there, but we don't know that. So we start with our anger in a relationship, with our sense of unfair treatment at the hands of a specific other. And that's what we work with. And of course, this lesson concludes with with an exercise in which he shows us how to do that, like many of the workbook lessons do. But throughout the workbook, he's saying, you've got to make this specific, not because it's real, but because you believe it's real. So let's look at it together. Let's look at it with a part of your mind, me, this symbol of our teacher, the part of your mind, our mind that didn't take the tiny mad idea of separation seriously. Let's look on this together, and together there's another part of the text that says we dispel the ego's darkness with the lamp of light is the symbol of Jesus, Holy Spirit. So we can't do that by ourselves, and we have to start where we are. But we really are. This entire process is raising to doubt every value that we hold. Right? Everything that comes up. And again, we don't have to do it, if we had to do it all at once, and that's what the ego often convinces us, well, that's impossible, because how on earth, I can't do that. That's completely overwhelming. There's not enough time in the entire hologram for me to do that, and we're not being asked to look at everything all at once. That's the kind use of the illusion of time, is to look at things, one illusion at a time, one reaction at a time. That's what we work with.
That's such a relief, isn't it? To realize that we don't have to undo that insane thought system all at once. We get to look at it moment to moment to moment and just say, am I invested in this as an outcome or an identity or whatever seems to create the least or great amount of discomfort in a given moment. Yeah, like you say, that's the perennial classroom, isn't it? And I think one of the things I like in some of Gary Renard's work is the idea that not only is the ultimate payoff, if you will, or release, the complete undoing of all the different tendrils and connections and fractal fingers that go into the hologram of the dream of illusion and releasing ourselves from that insanity, something to look forward to, but moment to moment we feel a sense of peace and release when we are willing to, as you say, bring to doubt our investment in ego strategies that are just nutso. And that's really, I think, at the heart of forgiveness, is to say, yeah, I'm willing, at least for a moment, to look at my investment and look at my values, look at my beliefs, and put them on the altar of the mind with the Holy Spirit, and our inner kindness teachers help see that there's nothing there. But it's only until we exhume them and bring them out into the open of our mind, not necessarily in any public venue, but just as long as we're honest with ourselves and say, oh yeah, I am wanting this particular situation or outcome or this particular seeming part of the dream that I'm in to be a certain way or not be a certain way.
Right. And I think, really, and it starts with really feeling what we're feeling. I mean, we
Hmm.
can't,
Hmm.
and I think also as we work with this course and move on, along the journey, there is an awareness, a heightened and increasing awareness of what it's saying.
Hmm.
I mean, of what it's really saying and what that means for me. Again, that, well, if it's not speaking, I mean, that's in the development of trust, that fifth stage, in which we, throughout the development of trust, the first few stages where we are sorting through the valuable from the valueless. I mean, as if there's anything valuable here, we're learning that just what you're saying, that in each moment, we can feel better.
Hmm.
But then we sort of hit a wall when we recognize, I don't want to, I'm not sure I want, we put the brakes on because I'm not sure I want to go the distance with this, because what this is saying really is, what does that mean for me? I still don't know. And that's where we are for a long time, because we're, that heightened awareness makes it, it's almost like we have to feel that sense of the free fall of this,
Hmm.
that that we really are stepping into something that's completely unknown to us. I mean, Jesus tells us throughout the course, you don't understand oneness. You will not understand oneness till you wake up. The course doesn't spend much time at all trying to describe oneness. And so, it's a lie if we say that we even have an idea of what that means.
Right.
But what we need to look at is how difficult we find it to see sameness, and sameness, the M and the N,
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
sameness is what that is. This is, leading. I mean, that will precede oneness. Once we see everything and everyone as it's truly the same, in that, we're no longer looking at the form. I mean, we still notice the form, but we're not making that important. We're not making the differences between us important. Then, when we get to that point where we can where this really does generalize to everything, then we'll be ready to awaken to oneness. That will just happen naturally. But boy, that's hard. And it's, what we find ourselves doing is that the old seeming issues return to be looked on again, because we're digging in. So I just finished watching. Well, I'm not finished with it yet because I didn't have time yesterday. But the streaming from the foundation's most recent workshop this week was the Grab Bag of Guilt Revisited. And it was fabulous. It was really great. And, but it was great to think about that concept that Ken has used before of, we all have a grab bag in which we, everything that has ever happened to us seems to be in. And he said, or they were saying, I didn't see the original workshop, but Jeff and Rosemary were talking about how Ken said that there were 2 books within the grab bag. And in one book, there was I have listed everything horrible that anyone has ever done to me, all of the sins of others.
Mm-hmm.
And in the other book, I have all the wonderful things I've done in spite of the fact that I've been, completely thwarted by all of these others. And so, all of those seeming
victimizers.
That's right. And so all of those, seeming specific examples
Mm-hmm.
of my persecution are in my grab bag. And when we, as we move forward with this course, and we do begin to see that sameness, we have time, the holy instance in which we really, our specialness drops away, our differences drop away, and they're no longer important, and we can really feel compassion. I mean, even if the other person is doing something that in form is not okay, we can see, we identify with them because we know we have an ego too. We know how frightened we've been. We know we also know they have a right mind, and we know, and we have faith in the right mind, and so we can, compassion flows from that for ourselves and others. That's where we recognize that beyond this, there is a world I want. There is innocence, and that everybody's fighting the same hard battle. But then we have those moments, and it frightens us so badly, because what does that mean for me? On some level, we know, wow, I mean, my whole identity is predicated on on keeping this faith in the other as being separate and other than me and different from me. And it's so, so threatening. And so I go back into my grab bag, and, you know, they were asking us to look at what's at the top of your grab bag. And, you know, here's a very sad revelation that I will make to you, Bruce. And when I started actually trying to think about that, it's a very crowded place, the top of my grab bag. I mean, there's a lot in it at the moment, you know? And so it's, I mean, that's very, very helpful to look at and see, wow, you know, and just think about when you're, you know, oh, that was when you're experiencing something. Well, that was in my grab bag. I mean, it's those ones we see, it's our favorite toys that we pull out, right? Our toys of destruction.
Right.
And so, you know, that's really, these lessons, and this lesson that so well describes forgiveness is really saying this is how it works. You know, you have to look at the way you think the problem as it is, and not the way you set it up. And that's going to cause some friction for you. You know, that's going to cause some tension, but it's going to be okay. You know, I'll lead you through the darkness if you trust in me. So anyway.
Yeah. You made an excellent point there. And it's all about, like you say, just looking at our willingness to forgive and realizing that most of the time we'd rather pull out of the grab bag. We'd rather grab something and turn it into an issue and make it a big deal.
Right, make something of it because it's nothing, you know. And so I mean, do you remember that? I don't know. As little kids, I remember, you know, we had a big gang of kids that I hung out with when I was little, and it was always, you know, people getting into conflicts and kids saying, you want to make something of it, you know, right before they got into some kind of fist fight. But that's what we do, right? It is like children. It's, you know, we're being, it's an infantile fantasy that we're entertaining and defending, you know. But that's the way it is. That's what you know, bodies that, and people don't come here that know that they're not bodies and know that they're children of God. You know, people come here as fugitives. So
trying to escape from the wrath we think we deserve. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. We can read through parts of this if you want, or
sure. I have one favorite sentence, and that to me is maybe what you were referring to in the exercise is in the ninth paragraph of lesson 134 is, would I accuse myself of doing this?
Right. That's sort of the how-to. Like. Yeah. Well, why don't you read that whole
the paragraph?
Paragraph. Because,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a very simple way to find the door to true forgiveness and perceive it open wide and welcome. When you feel that you are tempted to accuse someone of sin in any form, do not allow your mind to dwell on what you think he did. For that is self-deception. Ask instead, would I accuse myself of doing this?
Right.
And it's kind of a companion phrase of would I rather see my brother sin?
True. Yeah. Right. And and how do I want to see myself? Right. And it's I mean, it really is, because it's not, he's not really saying there again, he's speaking figuratively. We may start with that thought, would I accuse myself of criticizing a person like this? Would I accuse myself of betraying a person like this? Would I accuse myself of, you know, cheating a person like this? So, you know, we may start at that specific, but that's not, he's referring to, would I, you know, do I want to hurt myself again by supporting the thought of differences, supporting the thought of separation, supporting the thought of good and evil, of duality, you know? And so, because I can, if I want to, he's not going to, you know, you can keep playing this game as long as you want, but it's a choice to hurt myself. And, you know, I mean, there's that lesson in the second part of the workbook, I will not hurt myself again today. I think that's what it says. And
it's totally masochism.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that really is the question, that whenever we're angry with someone else, you know, raising it to doubt and saying, you know, I mean, do I really, I have a choice here that takes it back to the decision-making mind. You know, I can continue in this vein of making it all about what they did, but I made a choice in the mind before I reached into my grab bag for this to you know, make separation real again, to make me real, to defend myself, you know, from the love of God, because I think that I've destroyed it. And so this is feedback. This is telling me, oh, you know, when I find myself upset with, angry at you, that was a choice, a prior choice that I made, and I don't have to continue hurting myself with this. I can drop it. I can put it back in the grab bag, you know, or I can hold on to it for a while and still look at it and question it. But, you know, I don't have to maybe immediately, you know, maybe I want to hold on to it, but at least bringing it back to that awareness out of concealment, because that's where it festers and gains strength. And, you know, the ego gains power in concealment. That was the whole plan, is deny it, forget we made this up. And so, you know, taking it out of the grab bag and looking at it with our teacher and saying, you know, I have a choice. This is gonna, you know, this way lies madness. I don't want to keep hurting myself like this. And at least that puts us back, it brings back to awareness the decision-making mind, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really the only place where the self-sabotage can be undone.
That's right. That's really that's the great hope of A Course in Miracles, is to have us become aware through practice, because we're so resistant to this, and we've decided to forget it, but to reverse that process and make us aware that this is a decision. You know, in truth, nothing outside my mind has the power to take my peace away, you know, and nothing in form can do that. This is all happening in the mind. And you know, Jeff, when he was pointing to the chart in this workshop this week, pointed to the ego side of Ken's chart. And he said, you know, you have to remember that everything here is over. And, you know, that's not a new idea, but it really struck me. It kind of, you know how sometimes someone will say something like that, and it's just like a, whoa, you know, and then, you know, they were like emphasizing, how does that make you feel? What does that mean for you? And, you know, because we do want to get in touch with the fact that that's terrifying. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no way that I can really understand that or believe it, but I can do this practice of right now, you know, would I accuse myself of doing this? Do I want to accuse myself again of doing this? Do I want to, you know, because it hurts.
It's rehashing. As you're saying that, I was thinking it's not only terrifying masochism, but it's terrifying nostalgic masochism.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we're just rehashing something that only happened in a dream, you know, and it's really that part of us outside the dream that is willing to do the looking. And outside the space-time dream drama that says, oh yeah, maybe I could look at what I'm getting out of this drama and bring it to question.
That's right. I mean, it's a delicious suffering that we indulge, you know. I mean, it's like a country western song, you know, with the drama and the betrayal and all of that. I mean, I mean, that's how silly it is, but, you know, but we love it. We absolutely love it, you know.
So forgiveness is kind of like the comic that lampooning the country western music and said that, yeah, if you play the country music backwards, you know, the guy gets the pickup and the house and his wife and the dogs and all come back, you know, and you know, something
so
like that.
That's an ego's dream, huh? Yeah, just play it backwards.
But that's sort of what we're doing with forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's not about all the things. It's about all of our mental investments.
We really want to erase the tape. Yeah. But,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a better metaphor, actually.
Right. Because, but honestly, I mean, in truth, we want to do just what you said. We want forgiveness to make everything work out in form, you know, and that has nothing to do with form. That's like the chart is over. That never happened, you know. So that, I mean, we're reviewing mentally. The Course says what you know, that what went on before. Well, it didn't really go on before, because everything, you know, in ways that we cannot fathom, because eternity is meaningless to us in this dream, but it's over. And so, you know, I mean, it's a lot to do about nothing. And, you know, he goes on to say, let's see, there's something about the blustery, let me see if I can find it. Across this bridge, as powerful as love, which laid its blessing on it, are all dreams of evil and of hatred and attack brought silently to truth. So that's when we turn to Jesus, Holy Spirit, to say, let me look at the, something else. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not upset for the reason I think. I'd like to see it differently. I could see peace. I don't right now. In fact, I'm really angry right now, but let's take another look with you. And then he says, they are not kept to swell and bluster and to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them. And that's what they do. They swell and bluster and fester, and we love it. It's we're so attracted to it. Rosemary said, she was talking about how it's like a theme park here. And she said, but remember, you pay to get into theme parks. We're very invested in this,
Right.
So
because we think that there's a separate identity. Harkens back to that fifth stage in the development of trust.
Development of trust. That's right.
Like, wait a minute. I give up all my grievances, then I'll lose this self.
Well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, we think we are the dream. The dream. Everything in our dream, though, is really just like in our sleeping dreams. It's really us. It's really, if you were having a terrifying recurring nightmare and you were going to a therapist, the therapist would be helping you see that all of the symbols in the dream are just a part of your mind, that you've disowned, that you've dissociated. So it's the same thing here. I mean, we've dissociated, the belief in separation, but we see it everywhere. It's stalking us now.
And it's out of my daytime dreams. No.
Right. Right. And that's what I mean. That's exactly what I'm saying, that's exactly what we're doing. And that's why that's such a good analogy. But if once they are not kept to swell and bluster to terrify the foolish dreamer who believes in them, he has gently wakened from his dream by understanding what he thought he saw was never there. And now he cannot feel that all escape has been denied to him.
And that fits beautifully with what's in what is forgiveness on 401 in the workbook. And forgiveness, on the other hand, is still quietly does nothing. It offends no aspect of reality or seeks to twist into appearances it likes. It merely looks and waits and judges not. So it doesn't try to change anything. It just basically looks at it and says, there wasn't anything there. And that's really the only way that true forgiveness can work, is to recognize that the whole basis is ego's dream dramas on something.
Right, exactly. And we just have to, it's that turning away from what we believe, that questioning. It's, I must be wrong. And I think people sometimes, like in the classes that I've been in and classes that I've taught, I think we as students and even teachers forget, you think that you're supposed to feel something. You think that you're supposed to feel this sort of, magical, holy instant in which there is some kind of celestial choir and, beautiful fairies or something. I mean, it's supposed to be some kind of divine, mystical experience. And that's right-mindedness is simply, duh. I mean, I could see peace. Yeah, this was nothing. And again, they're the same as I am. They have their own dream, and in their dream, I'm the perpetrator. And so my decision to not play and to see them with compassion, it means that I can experience a glimpse of it's okay, it's all okay. None of us are guilty here. And I think that's the shift to right-mindedness. And even when we're not right-minded, as we move forward with this course, on this process, on this seeming journey, the awareness, the ability to make the purpose of our lives awakening to that understanding is, we do become mindful. We do become aware, at least, that I'm wrong. And, even if I don't feel anything, even if I haven't returned to peace, my awareness will lead me there. That's what, Ken always said that. And we do have to become more sensitive to it. We do have to become, it's going to be uncomfortable, you and I have talked many times about resistance, the resistance that we have. And so we just have to be, that's predictable. it's to just be kind of patient. I mean, I'm talking to myself here because I'm not any of these things, but
Oh yeah,
we're patient with the
same choir,
process,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's what's and then really kind of call yourself out on the self-bashing that you do with this, where it just seems impossible when you're hearing that voice, the ego voice, that this is just impossible. Look how many years you've been doing this. You're not getting anywhere. Your life isn't better. I mean, I think that, anybody who's seriously tried to work with this course has that ego rant going on, self-criticism going on, which is the same as projecting on another person. I mean, it's just a body. And so to just kind of catch yourself on that and say, answer it back. Well, you know what? I'm too frightened right now, but I'm still going home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not, it's not true,
Right. Yeah, I like how you mentioned that the ego's reaction is so predictable that it's sort of like we can, after a while, gear ourselves up for wait for it, here it comes. The reactionary backlash of
it's boring, yeah.
Of it's boring, or how come your life isn't working, or why are you having these outward trappings of whatever it is that thinks it should be, that it reflect a dream of some kind of fulfillment that is never going to happen, never going to work within this world.
Right, and that is, it's forgiveness also of our dreams of specialness, of our dreams of attaining something here, of our dreams of somehow distinguishing ourselves, somehow, or finding the best job or the best relationship or the someone that will get us. I mean, all of those those little stories, those little possibilities in the dream are that's the same fodder for forgiveness as our reactions, because it's pulling us. The whole intention is to keep us away from the mind. And so when we catch, that's predictable too, or comparing ourselves to others, there's we're angry about that. We're angry that someone is better than we are, or I'm not as accomplished as this person in my field, or whatever, it is for you. Or I'm on the other side, I'm better than, I'm somehow, more important or more accomplished than someone else. I mean, both sides of that coin lead to, are going to lead us to suffering. And they are they're reflections of our suffering. They're projections of trying to keep the game of specialness going, the game of separation going, the game of duality going. And, through experience, we're learning that way lies madness. It's not going to bring us peace. And,
Yeah. Another reminder of what you just triggered for me. A favorite quote that is so simple, but it really encompasses the whole pure non-duality of the Course, which is love makes no comparisons.
Right.
And a real gratitude, which I was thinking the other day doing workbook lessons up for the chronological process. That it can be only my gratitude that I earn. But the only real gratitude is gratitude that doesn't make any kind of comparisons. It's not about anything that's happening in our space-time dramas.
Right, because our self-worth comes from God.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from anything else, and no substitute will ever work.
Right.
I mean, there's so many lessons that tell us that, indirectly and very directly. The entire text theoretically tells us that, and so, but again, it's, it takes us a very, very long time to even begin to question that Jesus is not speaking to me, Susan, and you, Bruce, that he's speaking to our shared decision-making mind, which seems to be having a private dream of specialness. And it's really only on that level that change is taking place, the choice is being made. But, so we don't, from our perspective, we don't understand that. So we must use the specifics of our lives to allow the Holy Spirit to use what was, what we made up to hurt to lead us back to heal the mind. And so, I think that he goes on in this lesson. Can I read a little bit more down?
Oh, of course.
So I don't have these paragraphs numbered. I had to print it out because my workbook is getting so marked up that I can barely read it. So, so forgiveness must be practiced, for the world cannot perceive its meaning. So we cannot perceive its meaning. So that means, like, stop trying to understand this with your brain, because the brain was made to defend against this, you know. So, nor provide a guide to teach you its beneficence. I mean, the guide is built in. The guide is in our mind. The guide is Jesus, our Holy Spirit, our teacher. So don't turn outward for evidence of anything, you know. There is no thought in all the world that leads to any understanding of the laws forgiveness follows, nor the thought that forgiveness, he's saying it, but forgiveness reflects.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is as alien to the world as is your own reality. And yet it joins your mind with the reality in you. So, you know, forgiveness is an earthly form of love. Here in the dream, forgiveness is the reflection, you know, of that oneness that will lead us home. And it's the memory, the awareness that this never happened. And so that is we have to turn there. We can't turn toward anything that is, you know, our senses will always lie. Everything in the dream will attest otherwise to this. And I mean, look at our world. The you know, guilt is I mean, it's everywhere in the collective world that we see. You know, there's all these trials going on right now. And you know, there just was the judgment on the shooter in the Aurora case. And, you know, I mean, a horrible, tragic story for everyone involved. But we you know, we're always trying to find guilt and not ever seeing the guilt of this entire thought system within our own mind. And so it never is going to get healed. It's always going to be projected outward. And it is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's all insane. And,
totally.
you know, yeah. So, well, I was just going to go on. Maybe we could look at, or did you want to read anything else from the you know, what is forgiveness?
Oh, that whole page is wonderful.
It's
I mean,
wonderful. Yeah.
And as is his lesson. But yeah, but again, to me, the helpful solution to looking at anything that seems to be going on that I'm accusing someone else of is, would I condemn myself for doing this?
Right.
This is the next
Yep.
paragraph. And if we're basically saying to ourselves, I'm willing to forgo peace at a price of, you know, and that's the price of that I'm paying for condemning someone else for what really is just my own projection.
Just seeing that right there, you know, I'm willing to throw this, you know, to protect my specialness. I'm willing to suffer greatly, enormously.
Right.
That, I mean, that admission, that honesty, is a huge step in itself.
It is.
You know. And maybe we're not ready to see peace. And maybe I mean, God knows in our special relationships, we are, you know, I mean, that's why we have them. That's why they're so, you know, they are what root us here, but they also are our biggest opportunities to free ourselves, because we are so invested in what we put in, you know, that's at the top of our grab bag every time. And that's why we can experience times of forgiveness, you know, of release and right-mindedness in our special relationships. But boy, we go right back to the grab bag again when we become afraid of the light, you know. So that's our favorite thing. We all have our favorite special relationships that we pull out. And like I said, I was shocked to really see that it wasn't just my family, you know. And so it's good to, like, look at that. You know, these are the habitual you know, objects of my projection that I reach for, that sure seem to keep my story of victimization and my, you know, seem to preserve my innocence. My face of innocence, of course, has that section at someone else. You know, it's not my fault; it's theirs, and it seems so real. So we're so invested in that. But at least if we say, "Would I accuse myself of doing this?" You know, that stops us again and gets us back to the decision-making mind. And then the next sentence in the next paragraph is, thus will you see alternatives for choice in terms that render choosing meaningful and keep your mind as free of guilt and pain as God himself intended it to be and as it is in truth. Well, why is it why are the alternatives then seeming meaningful? Because we're applying them very specifically to what we think is happening to us. Look what you did to me again. Look at the boneheaded thing that you did again. And so, that's what we need to look at. That's the specific that makes it very meaningful to us. So we start with the specific, and it leads us back to the abstract. Oh, this is a symptom of the guilt in my mind again. That's all it is.
Exactly. So we can turn the tables on the thus we're specific made strategy of the ego,
right.
and use the specifics to look at how we're, as egos, trying to choose among illusions, either no matter how we slice it or dice it, the ego is always going to pick someone to be the victim, someone to be victimized, or someone to be guilty, other than me, of course, unless we turn it around temporarily and then self-incriminate. But either way, there's a guilty party. When all we really are being asked to do here is look at why do we need to make anyone guilty?
Right.
Why can't we just look from that perspective that is being addressed throughout the course, is where above the battleground there's true innocence, there's true, and then that's where the forgiveness comes in, to recognize that nothing happened.
Forgive ourselves for not wanting to.
Right.
I don't want to. Because I still think that, I don't know the alternative. Again, it's fear, but it's also that, there's a part of me that still thinks something, I might be, another can be found, as the Course says. I can find some way to relieve the guilt here and get what I want, have my identity and my Course and my life too. Mm-hmm. And so it takes us, this is a maturing process, this practice, and it takes us a long time, most of us, many, many years, and who knows, maybe many lifetimes to get this, because, yes, in theory, we could do it right now, but obviously if I'm still harboring all of this animosity that I see coming up, and I'm reaching into my grab bag all the time, then obviously I know what the Course is saying, I believe it intellectually, but there's a part of me that doesn't want to do this, that still thinks there's something, and that's okay. And that's what, so the point of that is to not judge ourselves, to try to catch ourselves, as I was saying earlier, when we do judge ourselves, which is inevitable almost with this process, and just say, you know what, this struggle is predictable. This is, I've been here before, and I know why, and just, I can let it go. I don't have to keep struggling with it and keep bashing myself. My right mind will return when my fear subsides, and engaging in a struggle with it is just prolonging the fear, So, but again, it's always the bringing our illusions to the truth. But Jesus is aware that we indulge our illusions, and he's, he meets us in the condition we think we're in, and says, my brother, look with me. Let's look at this together, and let's see, let's raise this to doubt and take a look at what's really going on here.
Right. Which fits perfectly with the first part of the eighth paragraph, is the strength of pardon is honesty, which is so uncorrupted that it sees illusions as illusions, not as truth.
Right.
Yeah. We're not trying to somehow distort or misinterpret our ego minds. Misinterpretations, and try to make it real.
Right. We don't have to do battle with them. We can just say, okay, that's my fear. That's what's going on here. And as quickly as we can get out of that judgment, try to do it. But we may still be angry. We may still be, I think it's unrealistic to expect that you're going to have an immediate shift out of your feelings, and it's not helpful to try to tamp them down or talk yourself out of them, because it's that repression and that concealment that seem to get us into this mess in the first place. So we want to bring it to the light. It can't hurt us in the light, and so we need to allow. But that's a process, because again, it's very fearful for us to look on this. So. But he later in this lesson, he gives us that exercise And again, it's about very specifically, to make it meaningful to us, we have to, even though forgiveness is never really about another person, it starts with our relationships. The whole course came to Helen and Bill in a conflicted relationship. And so, you know, that's the classroom. And it's an experiential process. And this lesson really is one of those that gives us a specific exercise in which we pick a brother. Maybe I'll just read that. He says, let's see, where do I have to back up to? Our practicing becomes the footsteps lighting. I'm going to back up a little bit just to put this in context. Our practicing becomes the footsteps lighting up the way for all our brothers who will follow us to the reality we share with them. That this may be accomplished, let us give a quarter of an hour twice today and spend it with the guide who understands the meaning of forgiveness and was sent to us to teach it. Let us ask of him, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Then choose one brother as he will direct and catalog his sins. As one by one, they cross your mind. Be certain not to dwell on any of them, which we want to, right? But realize that you are using his, quote, offenses, but to save the world from all ideas of sin. Briefly consider all the evil things you thought of him. So feel it, you know, really, like, this is what I really believe. Look what you did to me. And each time ask yourself, would I condemn myself for doing this? You know, and so that's where we start. And then let him be free. Maybe you want to read the next paragraph, Bruce.
Sure. Let him be freed from all the thoughts you've had of sin in him. And now you are prepared for freedom. If you have been practicing thus far in willingness and honesty, you will begin to sense a lifting up, a lightening of weight across your chest, a deep and certain feeling of relief. The time remaining should be given to experiencing the escape from all the heavy chains you sought to lay upon your brother, but were laid upon yourself.
Right. So it's this practice, and again, you know, we may have a lightening of weight across our chest while we're doing this lesson, but more than likely that will take a little time, you know, because this is a process again. But we will, the overall journey, the overall process does result in this relief and release. And, you know, where we really don't see the other person anymore as having separate interests. You know, we really do see that we share the common interest of going home, that we're both as frightened, you know, about the secret sins we believe we harbor, and that we can never be, you know, that we're damned for all eternity. I mean, everybody walking around here, like Lesson 182 so beautifully says, feels that horrible alienation and hopelessness of believing that they have, you know, hurled themselves out of heaven for good, and so and are not welcome back, you know. And so I mean, it's almost a simultaneous kind of recognition that we're the same, you know. And that's where this, like, great compassion, this true empathy that the Course talks about comes from, and with it comes that release and the smile, the innocent, you know, the sense of innocence. I mean, everybody experiences it differently, but it doesn't matter. It will be a relief. It will be a comfort and an awareness that it's not me versus them, you know. And then faith, I think that's where the trust is restored, that this is really, you know, this is what I want. I don't want to keep hurting myself like this. And I do have a choice. I can take 100% responsibility for my mind and begin to heal, you know. And that's power. I mean, that's the true hope and power of the Course, is to get us to fully experience and understand that we are decision-making minds, not bodies.
It's very inclusive. It's the ultimate win-win philosophy that recognizes that anything that's lose-win or lose-lose is all lose.
Is all lose, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's really the only place where, you know, the win-win, the true all-encompassing inclusion is really the only place where true forgiveness can work, because without that, there's still a belief that differences and you know, separate interests are important. then it's like, well, okay, I'm still using those
Be honest
parents'
about
brand
it.
of forgiveness.
We need to be honest about it and not skip those steps. You know, this is a process in which we have very little to contribute, really, except to raise to doubt our, you know, our feelings, and raise to doubt the cause of our feelings. And the rest of it really is not up to us. I mean, that this is an undoing that's happening in a part of our mind that we're not aware of, the right mind. So you know, our job is only to take the tiny steps Jesus is giving us, and to try to the best of our ability to change the direction, to change the purpose of our lives and our experience, to learning a new way of relating to each other, and thereby learning that you know, that we have never been apart ultimately. And you know, that's the need of every heart that the Course talks about. And so but we don't learn that all at once, you know, and we can't skip the steps. And so it's just, what will speed us along is to be as honest as we possibly can about where we're at, and to try to the best of our ability to call ourselves out when we're judging ourselves and say, you know, that's not helpful. This is fear, and do I really want to hurt myself again? You know, I can, you know, I can take all the time I want, but delay will hurt me.
Yeah.
And I always have a choice. It's not true that you know, that anyone else can interfere with my peace. That's regardless of how horrendous the form of the assault may seem, you know. And we do begin to see that there's no hierarchy of illusions, because the fury that we can feel over the minor twinge of annoyance is revealed to us through the process. We've been able to dissociate that pretty well before we come to the Course, most of us, but it becomes quite apparent when we start to be mindful that I'm angry like most of the time, you know. Oh well.
But that's the only really, you could call it by different names, but that's really the only emotion you can know, is fear, anger, guilt. You know,
it's all guilt. You know, any of those negative emotions are guilt, but you know, we put them into specific categories based on specific, what we think are specific crimes of someone else's, you know, reactions to crimes.
Our sacred grab bag.
Our grab bag. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
I've got my grab bag items. You've got two different ones, but they're really the same stuff.
But everybody's got a grab bag, and you know, and doesn't matter what, I mean, what Ken always said, and they were emphasizing, Rosemary and Jeff were so beautifully, again, emphasizing, they're so good. You know, it doesn't matter what's in your grab bag. It's what matters is why you're going to it in the first place.
Right.
Well, you know, we're going to it in the first place to keep guilt alive.
Purpose is everything.
Which preserves the idea of me, which is just an idea. And it was a silly idea. It wasn't simple, but you know, we think it's a very simple idea. And so we have to defend constantly against it. But it's nothing. So, but we learn, you know, that we don't know that till the very end of the journey. And you know, so in the meantime, we can just focus on right now. And you know, try to make this the purpose of our lives, you know, and recognize in every moment we have two purposes. We have two teachers and two choices. And you know, one will hurt us. Accusing myself of this will hurt me, and asking for help to look at it differently and allow its release will heal. And so that's kind of all there is.
And letting go is that second step. First being to recognize that you're using those strategies,
right,
and saying this isn't serving me, and then the releasing is the prying that mental grip off the mind, which is really choosing against ego and for our teacher, and then you say that our part is incredibly small, because we've done those two things. The third part is allowing the spirit to replace you know, the nonsense we've been buying into with the truly awareness that nothing happened.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I don't have anything really more to say about it. But do you?
Well, I mean, the whole thing we could read.
We could go on and on,
but it's just a wonderful exposition of how important it is to just keep remembering to forgive ourselves, not to condemn, not to judge, and to not condemn and judge when we find ourselves condemning and judging.
Exactly. Yeah, well, and just, yeah, I mean, to the best of our ability, again, to forgive ourselves.
Right.
Because we're messing up all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it's built into this, that's what bodies were made to do. And, people who come here, come from a messed up belief. And so.
Earlier you were saying something reminded me of thinking, you just watch random conversations of people you know, or things on the news, or just about anything. I mean, and recognize how much judgment and condemnation is built into, and the purpose of so much of what goes through all of our minds. It can be overwhelming and pretty frightening. But when you recognize this, it's ultimately just silly. I think that there's that gentleness that starts to take a part of our awareness and return it to that feeling that's like, well, nothing happened. I can afford actually to look at this, and without recoiling in terror, but just to see that it doesn't have any effect on what I really am and what we all are as one being.
That's right.
Yeah.
So. We could see peace.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that is a good way to conclude.
Yes.
Something to remember and think about our grab bags and what's in them, and try to be conscious of what we're doing and honest. And reread this lesson. It's great for, if people haven't read it in a while. It's great refresher on because even when we've been doing this a long time, we forget that we think we're really forgiving something real, and we need to open to the possibility that we're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Bruce. This is great.
This is Bruce Rawls. I'm talking to Susan Dugan, and we've been looking at lesson 134 and the What is Forgiveness section in the Workbook A Course in Miracles. And you can find Susan's work on 4asandforgiveness.com, and I'm reachable at ACIM.com, and look forward to talking with you again.
Great. Thanks a lot, Bruce.
Thank you.
Bye.